recording.
All right, lovely people. Wendy and I are here to look at your egg beater sequence, and this is Rennie's that we're looking at. And as we scroll through this, I would say, I think you have more images than you need, number one, and also that often your images really fill the screen, the page a lot. And I would love to see areas where there's more of a pause, such as this one right here, number 9, where there's an upper left in the corner, somewhere where we feel something like that. It just is almost the same tone as we go through here. And then I do sense, like in this, a sense of depth and a sense of, going into another place. This felt like a big jump to me visually coming in to these number 12 and 13. And then as we progressed, I think also I'd love to see, like here, I think the connection between 14 and 15, it's almost as if it's the same image, and which I see that a lot, where it might just go on a little too long. I think editing some of these out might help. And so then we get into here. And for me, this is where I thought a really wonderful transition took place, in that I felt you took us into this universe of number 16 and 17. And I'm still trying to determine, like, is this black on white, white on black? And here on number 18, I feel this wonderful shift happening. So to me, that was really quite exciting. And then I do feel like from 19 to 20, again, that just felt like a really big visual jump for me. So my thought, oh, there's more. Yeah, my thought is, I think you could have a little bit less. And I'd love to, it's a difficult thing for us to see when they're not in spreads, but I would love to see them in pairs, and how that might change this. I will say that your image, the way you've created these images, is really quite wonderful. And some of these patterns that emerge from your, manipulation are terrific, and they lose the egg beater in a really nice abstract way. And even as, Wendy's scrolling up through these, like that just becomes something completely different. Also, I think what's very innovative on your part is how much you use the white on the black, which is rather daring and fun to see. Yeah, so I think my parting words for this is probably a little bit more scale change, a little bit more moments of a quiet and tension where we're building into the story. There's a lot of this same kind of level in these. But again, parting words, beautiful imagery. And I do feel the sense of a shift and a sequence that happens when you shift into the positive negative. Good, good.
Yep.
And that was Rennie. So we're just going to look right now at the intuitive sequence project, just so everybody's aware as to what we're looking at. So this is, again, this is Anne's, and this was, as Wendy scrolls through these, this, I would say, you probably need more. Let's see how many you have here. Is my coming together in their final form? So oh, I see, here's the spreads. Okay, so yes, that's 2 5x5 pages equals a spread. I got it. Well, I think for me, I would love to see things that aren't just floating in the page. As we scroll through these, like this, there's a lot of singular elements. And I'd love to see more of a flow into them. It's also a weird cropping. I suspect it's the way you've submitted it. Like, I can't tell where the edge of your page is meant to be. Oh, here. Okay, I guess.
Yeah, I think it's just, but it's not exactly in the middle, I don't think either.
Yeah, and the touching right there is a good example of that handle at the top. I just feel like they seem just as if they're separated images, and not a lot of unification. I appreciate your story. Obviously, your plan was to have these disparate pieces all somehow come together to create this egg beater. But I would love to see more connection of form. And again, an understanding why sometimes there's a pattern like this, and then oftentimes there's not. Um,
I think
those are my,
I think this one, and there's like another one, I think this one. Like she just meant like the tool that's just single on the other opposite side, like is the one that drew the pattern. I think that's what it's suggesting. Like that's what I'm reading from it. Like this little thingy here was the one that drew this. And then, that's the connection that I'm making for the ones that are sort of loose. But like for this one, for example, I mean, I guess it's the same thing, but it's not as obvious.
yeah, for me, I just feel there's just a big disconnect between each of the spreads. And I'd love
Mhm.
to see more of a unification of the spreads as opposed to separate
Yeah.
images. Yeah. Yeah. And you also have an enormous amount of white space, which is not always an easy thing to do. So I do appreciate that, but I would love to see more of a visual connection between the spreads. Okay, egg beater of Katie. And mind you, for all of you, this is a rather, it's an unusual project, and it's asking you to think sequentially with parts. And this is nice where I see the cover, I see the first spread, second spread coming up. Okay, I certainly see a visual sequence here, and even a narrative. And in a way, it's sort of like what we just saw with Anne's, in a way, these different parts coming together, and then they build in intensity. I think what I would love to see here is it's very linear. It really leads and builds and builds and builds. And then for me, I think this is an incredible image right there, number 10. And then it sort of just goes away back out. So that seemed to me like a kind of like, to me, that was a very abrupt shift in the visual story. And then
Yeah.
to end it sort of in the same spot with that was also a bit of a disconnect. So I would think, maybe changing your scale even of some of these elements after they happens in number 10, because the rhythm from 1 through 9 is very, I would say very predictable. Like as a viewer, I sense that each time something is going to add and something's going to build. And I'd love to take advantage of this 10th and maybe, zoom in on one of these parts more. I think that's what I would like to see, because it just sort of fizzles out.
Yeah, I also thought the jump from 10 to 11 was like, I felt like there was a spread or two missing between these two. So, yeah.
But again, great abstraction. I felt a wonderful kind of march of these pieces. And I also love that I never see the egg beater in its entirety. As I said, there's many ways to tell the story, and to leave out the, actual egg beater, I think is a wonderful approach.
Yeah. I also love this little thingies.
Same. Yeah. It's a great little character as it moves through here.
Yeah.
Okay, so that was Katie's.
I think we're
And
done
then
with
so that's
grids.
okay. So that's it for the grids. And just as a parting word for all of you, the idea of this was an abstract, intuitive sequence. We're not using a grid for this. I don't, I love to have you work in grids, but not be clinging to a grid. and kind of how are you building a visual sequence with these abstract parts, and how do we read that? So it is an abstract exercise, but also all the while thinking about just elements of design, visual balance, positive and negative, and elements of surprise, elements of where we pause, elements where we have a question as a viewer. So all of those things are things to consider in this project.